Hi, Josh. How are you? I haven't seen you in a long
You
time.
said that last time.
I feel like I don't see you enough. Clearly, I miss you.
I have 1,000 questions for you.
Go for it.
I'll
Shocker.
two subjects.
Okay, Josh.
On the Georgia Senate election, with Senator Warnock's re-election having 51 Senate seats, what does that mean for possible changes in how the White House approaches its policy agenda and confirmation process?
So I want to give you a little bit of color on the call. I know some folks had some questions about how the call went. So Senator Warnock, well, first, as you know, the president called Senator Warnock last night when we got back from Phoenix, Arizona, and Senator Warnock thanked the president for the call, and they talked about their partnership and the importance of their continued work together in the months and years ahead. Look, what I would say to your question, Josh, about what this means for moving forward when it comes to the president's legislative agenda, when it comes to Democrats' legislative agenda, it's that it gives us a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more ability to deliver for the American people. The president has been very clear these past almost 2 years that his main priority, his main objective is to make sure that the American public, the American people, when it comes to the economy, we build it from the bottom up, middle out, giving people real opportunities. You see that in his economic initiatives and priorities, his plans. When you see the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, which I just mentioned at the top, and when you think about the American Rescue Plan, the first big piece of legislation that this president passed with only Democratic votes, which met the moment that he walked into with an economy that was really tanking, and he helped make sure that people got shots in arms, helped the economy get back on its feet, and we've seen these successes, which in the last two years. Again, this is going to give us a little bit more of that breathing room to get things done, to continue to move forward with what the American people want. And they were very clear in the midterms. What the American people want is they want to continue the agenda that the president had the last 2 years.
In the wake of the midterms, the president's traveled to 2 states that were critical to 2020, but also where Democrats did quite well. In Michigan and Arizona, should we expect a trip to Georgia anytime soon?
Don't have anything to preview at this time on any trips that the president will be having in the next couple of weeks. Of course, we've been to Georgia many times during even this presidency, and always look forward to going back, but don't have anything to preview at this time.
One more on the new margin in the Senate. Now that the vice president won't have to break the tie as often, in theory, and she has more flexibility in her schedule and time, will that impact her portfolio, travel schedule at all?
I mean, I don't believe so, no. Yeah, I would reach out to her team specifically, but I don't believe so. Let me just say, the vice president has been a great partner of the president this past 2 years. The successes that they both have had in the clearly Biden-Harris administration on getting things done for the American people when it comes to the economy, when it comes to lowering costs, when it comes to fighting inflation, and that is something that we're going to continue to do. We just talked about the gun violence reform legislation that was passed just a couple of months ago. All of that was done in partnership with the vice president, and he appreciates all the work that she has done on these issues.
Thank you, Corinne. The White House and the president were very vocal about Georgia's new election law when it was signed in March of 2021, and the big argument from the White House was that it would suppress voting. But there was record turnout in the primary, there was record turnout in the general, record turnout in the runoff, in early voting, absentee ballots, and in-person voting. So is the DOJ going to drop their lawsuit against the state?
I can't speak to DOJ's actions and what they're going to do.
The president, though, called it Jim Crow in the 21st century and a blatant attack on the Constitution. So does he still see it that way?
I'll say this. I'm not going to speak to the Department of Justice legal actions. That's something for them to speak to. What I can say, and not going to get into specifics of your question, but you all reported this, that there was suppression, that we saw that throughout the Georgia election. So that is something that was been reported on. So I leave it to those reports. But look, even with that, the American people came out. They came out in historic fashion to make their voices loud and clear. When it comes to democracy, when it comes to protecting our democracy, when it comes to making sure that we're protecting our economy, we're protecting Social Security and Medicare. This is something that the American people spoke very loud and clear. And they did that because of the success that the president has had on his legislative agenda, because of what the president has been able to deliver, because of what Democrats has been able to do, and making sure we had a sharp message for the American people to see the contrast. Right? Republicans wanted to put Social Security and Medicare on the chopping block. That's what they wanted to do. That was their plan. And, you know, people have said, I've heard some of your colleagues say earlier this morning that it was a stunningly bad cycle for Republican senators. And a lot of that is because of their agenda, is because they embodied the ultra MAGA ideas. And even with all of that, the American public came out and they put a lot of that to rest, a lot of what the Republican officials were putting forth, their plan to rest. And they said it very loud and clear. We want the special interests to pay their fair share. We want Social Security. We want Medicare to be protected. And we want women's rights to be protected as well.
On voting rights, are there any specific elements of either the Electoral Count Act or the Jon Lewis Voting Rights Act that the White House is seeking to add on to any year-end spending bill?
Can you say the first part of your question?
On voting rights has obviously been a huge priority of this administration, and there's a suggestion that there could be some type of voting rights push here in the final weeks of the year, that some elements of existing legislation could be added on to a year-end spending bill. Has the White House been discussing this with leadership?
So I've spoken to this a little bit about the importance of the president supporting the electoral piece. I don't have anything else to share on that. We're going to let Congress continue to negotiate and move forward with how they're moving the next couple of weeks, but don't have anything specifics. I haven't seen any language or anything specific about what you're asking on voting rights and others. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow.